A Spygate Thread by Brian Cates. The reason they have to drop all the indictments at once, as in indict everybody at once, is the Flynn case can't be extricated from the larger RICO criminal conspiracy within which it was formed. RICO, racketeering influenced corrupt organizations, basically refers to organized crime. Flynn's framing for a false statement case is just one branch of a massive RICO criminal conspiracy that occurred across the breadth of most of the federal government. It involved officials in the FBI, the DOJ, the State Department, CIA, the Office of the Directorate of National Intelligence, foreign governments, and foreign intel services. While they can drip out the evidence for the massive coup plot against President Trump, of which the Flynn framing was just one part of the whole, the justice, as in the indictments, the trials, the sentencings, cannot be dripped out. They make a sizable amount of the case for this massive RICO plot to overthrow an elected president public first, until the cries for justice reach to the heavens before they drop the curtain and roll out the indictments. Been saying for 3 years now, this is the way. Durham can start indicting people at any time before the election. People freaking out and going, oh my God, there's only 113 days left for Durham, Jensen, Bash, and other as yet unnamed U.S. attorneys to unseal indictments. What the hell are people saying? The trials have to start by November? Is that it? Listen, when these people are indicted, the trials will take anywhere from 6 months to a year to get started, unless some of the plotters accept a plea deal quickly. Durham is working hard right now to finish by the end of the summer, which means would be late August. One reporter got 2 anonymous sources to speculate and read Durham's mind so she could publish a story that Durham might possibly punt to after the election. That immediately became the rallying cry of the conservative Cassandra chorus that gets its views, clicks, and money from stoking panic, fear, and outrage every day. Why do you still listen to fake news at this point? You haven't figured out how the game's played yet? Look how easily it became a proven fact that Durham intends to delay until after the election. Barr has already said the election will play no role in the timing of Durham's investigation. That's why this reporter went looking for anonymous sources to her story. There are an awful lot of DC swamp creatures right now who get down on their knees every night and pray to God that Durham delays until after the election. This is what they are fervently praying for. How hard is it for a reporter to find 2 anonymous sources who will claim to her they are quite intimate confidants of John Durham, that they know his mind very well, that he tells them the inside baseball stuff? That's easy. I've watched this game played forever, since the 1980s. Now, today, they do the anonymous sources familiar with the matter far more than they did in the 1980s when I started following politics. But it's the same basic game. Some reporter wants to push a narrative. All they need is a source to parrot it back to them. Stop and look backwards. Remember, you have seen this before. You have seen it many, many times. Several sources very close to the Mueller special counsel's office told me, Flynn has flipped on Trump. Cohen has flipped on Trump. Manafort is singing like a canary about Trump. Mueller is compiling quite a mountain of evidence of Trump campaign Russian government collusion. Several highly placed intelligence officials told the New York Times that President Trump was briefed in March about the Russian bounty program and took no action. Several intel sources confirmed that Trump was briefed on the reality of the COVID-19 virus in early January. Several officials familiar with the matter, who would only speak on the condition of anonymity, confirmed to the Washington Post that President Trump threatened Ukrainian President Zelensky during the phone call. Two highly placed DOJ officials who refused to go on the record told Fox News anonymously that they are familiar with Durham's thinking, and they state he is mulling over whether to punt until after the election. All they have to do is find a narrative that grabs you. See, here's how the sausage gets made. You can look back now and see just how many times these fake news Goombas suckered you by having multiple government officials familiar with the matter anonymously push a false narrative. Looking back and seeing it is easy, but you've got to learn. You've got to learn to spot it not only when they were doing it to you a year or a week or a few days ago, you've got to train yourself to spot it when they're doing it to you right now. You have got to learn what your own biases, fears are, and recognize when some fake news media outlet has successfully read your biases and is deliberately crafting news stories to appeal to your confirmation bias. If you can't do that, you'll always fall for it. That Fox News reporter is smart. What's the biggest fear of the MAGA Trump right at the present time? It's that Durham won't finish by the election. So what'd she do? She went and found, supposedly, two key sources who would tell her that. Neither source actually works in Durham's office. I can say this with 100% confidence due to what the FBI revealed yesterday. From Pappy_1, no ill will. The Durham investigation isn't a leak factory for the fake news. They shut that shit down. He runs a tight ship. Fake News Inc. can only speculate, fabricate, and wring their hands about what Durham is up to. If some reporter for the New York Times, Washington Post, or CNN, or Fox came out and tried this right now, multiple government officials anonymously told me Trump was briefed on the CCP virus in January, would that work? No, you're wise to that one now. You don't have a bias leading you to accept it. But if that same reporter comes to you and pushes a narrative that is based on a current bias or fear you are holding, then if you're not perceptive, you're going to fall for it. Multiple government officials anonymously told me Durham will punt until after November 3rd. That's what you're scared of right now. That's what you fear. Many of you, even at this late date, don't trust Barr or Durham. So your bias gives the fake news some working room here. And that, my friends, is how you are still leaving the door open for fake news to manipulate you with their cool anonymous sources. So some of you can stop telling me that you don't believe fake news. You prove to me every damn day you do believe it. Up your game. Brian, I don't believe fake news. I'm too smart for that. Haha. Same person. 1 day later. Brian, oh my God, Fox News just says Durham is going to punt until after the election. Hold my hand, Brian. Tell me it's going to be all right. Me. It's two anonymous sources familiar with Durham's thinking. I can already tell they don't work in Durham's office because Durham's office has had more than a year the same documents Jensen has been giving to Sidney Powell, and they didn't leak. Durham's office does not leak, and its members do not talk anonymously to the fake news media. But because people don't trust Barr or Durham, and they think anonymous leaks out of the DOJ are gold standard, they end up talking themselves into depression and or panic. So, to sum up, this massive RICO criminal conspiracy to overthrow a president was so massive it took 3.5 years to get to this point. Indictments will be rolled out close together. Fake news is always trying to find your biases, fears, and crafting stories to trigger them. Durham is leading a team of United States attorneys. That fact kind of has receded into the background. We only know the names of 3 U.S. attorneys currently involved in Spygate investigations because the DOJ deigned to inform us of this. Durham, Jensen, Bash. There are others. There's a lot Barr and the DOJ haven't told us, and they have very good and compelling reasons for not having told us. I went into one of them here in a column a while back. The Ken Starr treatment. Special counsel Ken Starr made a huge tactical mistake from the very beginning of his Clinton Whitewater probe in the 1990s. He insisted on complete transparency for his investigation. The Clinton media machine then proceeded to turn his entire investigation into a years-long circus in which Starr and his investigative team were turned into national pariahs. This was going on even before the Monica Lewinsky evidence surfaced, which allowed the Clinton media machine to endlessly repeat Starr's investigation was just about sex. Trump and his team decided there was no way they were going to hang targets on the backs of dedicated public servants they were about to task with investigating Spygate. That would have allowed the DC leak culture and the Clinton media machine to take point blank aim at them while they were trying to they were trying to build their cases. Going the clandestine route with these Spygate investigations was probably the easiest decision that Trump had to make once he assumed office. Nothing is going to be made public by the DOJ until it's time to unseal indictments. While that leaves whining media commentators blind, it also leaves the DC leak culture and the Clinton media machine blind as well. And that's been the entire point. Too bad if you don't like it. By making himself a lightning rod and holding the Democrats and the media's attention with his bombastic displays, Trump has kept media attention off of Durham and other U.S. attorneys as they work on what is the most crucial criminal investigation the DOJ has ever attempted. Think about how much more partisan and rabidly vicious the mainstream media is now compared to the mid-1990s. Why haven't Huber and Durham and Jensen and Bash all been turned into national pariahs yet? Why don't they have media teams relentlessly stalking them at their homes? I'll tell you why not. I'll tell you why the media hasn't been able to do to Durham or Jensen or Bash what they did to Ken Starr. Even after these rabid media partisans found out Biden is right in the middle of the Flynn frame. This guy right here, Starr made the huge mistake of running his investigation openly, transparently, and the DNC media Clinton machine took full advantage of that. I can't tell you the number of times media people camped outside Starr's house just to film him getting into his car. Starr and his entire team were on the news every night being roasted as prudes and sexual inquisitors. That was happening even before Linda Tripp released the Monica Lewinsky tapes and the whole scandal of Clinton getting blowjobs from an intern in the Oval Office. When Trump and his team sat down to war game this out, I'm pretty sure one of the very first things they looked at was, how do we keep attention away from these U.S. attorneys while they build these cases? Well, that's easy. You spend the entire first 2 years making it look like nothing's happening. There's nobody for the Dems or DNC media to attack because nobody is doing anything. If anybody was doing anything, there'd be leaks. Giggle snort. You let the DNC media chase after the Mueller rabbit for a year and a half, while silent assassin Horowitz and his OIG investigators do their quiet work. Then Sessions leaves, Barr comes in, Mueller closes down, and you publicly tap Durham and his U.S. attorney team, and you pretend you are just now starting to investigate this Spygate stuff in the late spring of 2019. Remember what the FBI and DOJ new management publicly admitted yesterday in their statement. All the documents that United States Attorney Jeffrey Jensen has been handing off to Sidney Powell in the Flynn case since April 24th to now. Are you sitting down? You might want to sit down. Horowitz and Durham already had them. Boom. From Catherine Herridge. New Flynn attributable to the FBI. The materials recently produced to Michael Flynn's counsel include 2 pages of handwritten notes taken by Peter Strzok in early 2017 prior to his termination from the FBI in August 2018. The FBI previously made Mr. Strzok's notes available to U.S. Attorneys John Durham and Jeff Jensen, as well as to DOJ's Office of Inspector General during its review of the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. The documents recently produced to Mr. Flynn's counsel also include certain other handwritten notes made by senior DOJ officials during the same time of the Flynn investigation. The FBI has been and will continue to be fully cooperative and transparent with the U.S. Attorneys Durham and Jensen. The decision whether to turn over documents to defense counsel as part of discovery in a pending criminal case typically belongs to the prosecutors handling the case, not the FBI. So, screenshot to preserve the original order of the tweets. You get the idea from what I just read. That's right. Everything you've been seeing Jensen hand off to Powell, all those damning exculpatory documents that have been unsealed since April 24th, Barr, Horowitz, Durham already had them. They made it sound like Jensen just found them recently. This is a controlled declassification release through Jensen of some of the most sensitive evidence in a massive RICO criminal coup conspiracy of which the Flynn frame job is just a part. That's why once they are satisfied enough evidence is public, they will unseal indictments. The next drop will very likely include the lost Flynn 302 interview form. 113 days. People will make it sound like that is an incredibly short time. Let's do an update at the end of July.